In November of 2021, the São Paulo police received an emergency call from a young man who claimed to have found his girlfriend in her apartment. When the officers arrived at the scene, located in the Wanelville neighborhood, they found Ana Carolina Pasquin, a 24-year-old woman, lying on her bed. There were no signs of forced entry into the apartment, and the door was left open when the boyfriend arrived, at least according to his statement. The apartment had been thoroughly ransacked, and both her mobile phones and her computer were missing. It seemed like an attempted robbery that had ended tragically. Was her boyfriend involved? That was one possible explanation, and it's the one that most people would immediately think of. But there was more to the story. Someone else who had been a persistent threat to Ana Carolina. Someone she had reported multiple times for stalking her. This person had been following her everywhere. Was there a deeper connection between these events? And were there any signs that something as dreadful as this could happen? As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the police's slow response had only added to the pain and suffering of Ana Carolina's family. Ana Carolina's tragic story started when she was a young girl. She lived with her mother, Eleni Pasquin, and her stepfather, Eduardo de Freitas, in Pilar do Sul, sharing a home with him. Their relationship was close, and at first, Ana's mother found it a little odd. However, she dismissed her concerns because Eduardo appeared to be a loving man who cared for both of them. What Eleni didn't know was that behind his affectionate demeanor were far darker motives. Eduardo, who had earned the trust of Ana Carolina's mother, began to abuse the young girl when she was just a child. At first, it was only inappropriate touching, but as she turned 12, the situation worsened. Eduardo escalated his abuse, even threatening Ana to keep quiet about it. Time passed without anyone knowing the truth, and Ana Carolina's voice went unheard. In 2016, Ana's mother, Eleni, decided to end her marriage to Eduardo due to the irreparable damage caused by their relationship. However, Eduardo, a lawyer by profession, didn't agree with the division of assets, claiming ownership of everything. This marked the beginning of his aggressive behavior towards Eleni, but he would later apologize and try to convince her that they could still be a happy family. Despite all this, Eleni stood firm and proceeded with the divorce, thinking that Eduardo would finally leave them alone. She moved with her daughter to Sorocaba, unaware that this decision would ultimately protect Ana from further harm. However, Eduardo didn't give up easily. He continued to persist, trying to regain contact with them. Eventually, he managed to maintain a friendly relationship with his ex-wife, and both Eleni and Ana Carolina returned to Pilar do Sul. Even Ana, now an adult, started working at Eduardo's law firm, an arrangement that only came about through his insistence. Little did she know that every day she would have to face the man who had harmed her so terribly in her childhood. Things only grew worse for Ana. Eleni, upon discovering a revealing photo of her ex-husband with Ana, pieced together a series of disturbing truths. The photo was taken during a time when Ana was alone with Eduardo, leading her to realize the horrifying reality of what her daughter had endured. Ana finally confided in her mother, revealing that the abuse had started when she was 12 and had continued uninterrupted. She had kept the secret for so long, fearing it would cause even greater harm to her mother. Upon learning the truth, Eleni understood why Eduardo was so persistent in keeping a hold on their lives. His obsession with controlling them was clear. Eduardo even went so far as to enroll in the same veterinary medicine program as Ana, further intensifying his intrusion into her life. Desperate for relief, both mother and daughter sought legal protection against Eduardo, making it legally impossible for him to come near them. Yet Eleni felt that it wasn't enough. They needed to distance themselves entirely. She begged Ana to leave Pilar do Sul, and in January of 2021, Anna Carolina moved into an apartment in Sorocaba, hoping for a fresh start. By all accounts, Anna Carolina seemed to have finally found peace. She had gained financial independence and was in a healthy relationship with her boyfriend, Bruno. But Eduardo's obsession only grew stronger. And when Anna reached a point where she was completely independent, it sent Eduardo into a fit of rage. His anger fueled a new wave of harassment. He bombarded her with daily messages on WhatsApp, approached her on the street, and even created fake social media profiles to stalk her. Intimidated by the constant harassment, Anna began saving screenshots of their conversations and sharing them with her friends and her mother. In one of these exchanges, she seemed to have a premonition of what was to come. Then, on the fateful day, Anna Carolina Pasquin was found dead in her apartment. On the morning of November 13, 2021, Anna's boyfriend arrived at her apartment around 11:00 a.m. and noticed that the door was slightly open. Without hesitation, he entered the apartment and found Anna lying on her bed, lifeless, with a bullet wound to her head. Immediately, he called the police. The authorities arrived shortly after and began their investigation. One of the first things they noticed was that the victim's electronics, her phone and computer, had been stolen. However, no money or other valuables were missing, which struck them as odd. The police soon discovered that the scene had been meticulously staged, leading them to believe that it was a robbery gone wrong. But the fact that no one took the victim's money or jewelry raised suspicions that something more sinister was at play. As part of the investigation, the police conducted searches at various locations, including the boyfriend's home, but found nothing that linked him to the crime. This cleared him of any involvement and removed him from the list of suspects. At 11:55 a.m., Anna was officially declared dead by the authorities. The results from the autopsy confirmed the cause of death: a gunshot wound to the forehead, with the bullet lodged in her skull. No exit wound was found. Investigators began to gather information from the people who had known Anna, including her co-workers at the store where she worked. The staff reported a disturbing encounter from months prior, back in June, about 5 months before the murder, when Eduardo, posing as a customer, had parked his car in front of the store. When Anna noticed him, she immediately ran inside the store to hide. No one suspected at the time that it would escalate to this tragic end. Now, with Eduardo as the main suspect, the authorities focused on tracking his movements. They obtained his phone records, which revealed something startling. On the day of the murder, he had been in the area. At 5:45 p.m., just before Anna's death, Eduardo's car was caught on security footage near her apartment. During questioning, Eduardo claimed that he had been in Sorocaba that day to buy construction materials. He said he had only been in the area to refuel his vehicle and then returned to Pilar do Sul, where he spent the night at his mother's house. His alibi seemed airtight, but there was a major flaw. Eduardo's mother denied that he had been at her house that night. The police began to unravel Eduardo's lies. When they examined the messages he had exchanged with Anna, he tried to justify them by claiming that he was only worried about her and that their past trips together had been father-daughter bonding moments. But the investigators found photos of a revolver on his phone that had been taken about a month before Anna's murder, specifically on October 8, 2021. The authorities also discovered that Eduardo had been passing by the store where Anna worked multiple times in the days leading up to her death. This was more evidence that he had been keeping a close watch on her. The car registration records showed that his vehicle was near her apartment hours before the shooting took place. All of these pieces of evidence were pointing directly at Eduardo. Despite the mounting evidence, Eduardo was not immediately arrested. He was detained for only 60 days as the court failed to grant him preventive detention, which allowed him to be released while awaiting trial. This decision was controversial, as it was clear that he was a dangerous individual. His obsession with controlling Anna Karolina had led to her tragic murder. But despite all the evidence, the justice system had allowed him to go free. The police continued their investigation, and as more evidence came to light, it became clear that Eduardo had been stalking Anna for a long time. The investigators revealed a series of disturbing text messages that he had sent her over the years, even after Eleni separated from him in 2016. In these messages, Eduardo tried to manipulate Anna, pushing her to meet with him, ignoring her clear rejections. He didn't respect any boundaries and continued to impose himself in her life, showing an unhealthy obsession with controlling her every move. Anna Karolina had finally had enough and stopped responding to his messages. But Eduardo didn't give up. He kept sending her messages, saying things like, "I need to be close to you," and even resorted to stalking her physically, watching her every move when she went out with her boyfriend or spent time with her friends. His intrusion into her life was relentless, and Anna had no peace. In addition to the harassment, Eduardo tried to manipulate Anna into staying in the law office where he worked, claiming that if she left, she would ruin his business and that she wouldn't be able to pay for her college. It wasn't just about control over her social life, it was about financial control too. Eduardo was determined to dominate every aspect of Anna's life. Despite her attempts to block him and protect herself, the messages kept coming. Eduardo even tried to guilt-trip Anna into meeting him, sending texts like, "I will come by, I'll honk the horn, just come out and talk to me." Anna Karolina's bravery in saving these messages served as her shield, a way to document his continued harassment. But the worst was yet to come. Anna had been living in constant fear of Eduardo, knowing that he wouldn't let her go, and on the day she was found dead, it became clear that her worst nightmare had come true. Eduardo had finally taken her life in an attempt to stop her from escaping his grasp. But Anna Karolina's tragic death wasn't the end of Eduardo's monstrous behavior. In 2023, new investigations revealed that Eduardo had attempted to abuse another young girl, this time a 2-year-old, in the town of Itapeva, São Paulo. This time, his victim was the daughter of a family member, and he had convinced the parents to let him care for her, using his charm and persistence to manipulate them into trusting him. After the incident, the parents noticed that their daughter had changed in a disturbing way. She began to complain of pain and wet the bed, clear signs that something had happened. When the girl was taken to the hospital, it was confirmed that she had been assaulted and required medical treatment to prevent further harm. This incident was just another example of how Eduardo had continued his abusive behavior, even after his previous crimes. The parents of the little girl quickly filed a protection order, knowing that Eduardo had a history of silencing his victims. They reported that after the abuse, he began calling them incessantly, trying to cover his tracks, but they refused to engage with him. Eduardo denied the allegations, claiming that they were monstrous and unfounded. Despite his denial, the parents were determined to see justice served. The ongoing investigations and the growing list of Eduardo's victims have left everyone horrified. His actions, which began with the abuse of Anna Karolina, continued with his subsequent victims, proving that this predator's appetite for control and manipulation would never be sated. And while justice has yet to be fully served, those closest to Anna Karolina continue to hold on to hope that the truth will ultimately prevail, even if it takes time. The heartbreaking events surrounding Anna Karolina's death have left her family in a constant state of grief. While Anna's mother, Eleni, has sought solace in the support of loved ones and her faith, the fight for justice remains an ongoing battle. Eleni's heartache is not only fueled by the loss of her beloved daughter, but also by the knowledge that justice has been slow and incomplete. Anna Karolina was a kind and sociable young woman, known for her warm smile and her ability to make friends wherever she went. She was someone who fiercely protected her friends from any men with bad intentions, never suspecting that the greatest threat she would face would come from within her own family. Her friends and family members are still in shock over her untimely passing, and their tributes to her on social media reflect the deep pain and disbelief they feel. They recall her vibrant personality, her beauty both inside and out, and how her presence could light up any room. It's hard to accept that someone so full of life has been taken away so soon. Eleni, devastated by her daughter's death, has kept her daughter's memory alive by speaking out about the horrors of domestic abuse and stalking. Her message is clear: justice must be swift, and it cannot afford to be slow or complacent. She speaks passionately about the need for immediate action when dealing with cases of abuse, warning that when predators are allowed to roam free, more victims will suffer. Eleni has also raised awareness about how predators, like Eduardo, can hide in plain sight and manipulate their victims through charm, persistence, and control. She is determined to ensure that no one else suffers the way her daughter did. Despite the overwhelming evidence that pointed directly to Eduardo, the justice system failed Anna Karolina at every turn. It's a frustrating reality for Eleni, who had hoped for a quicker resolution and for her daughter's killer to be taken off the streets permanently. Yet, Eduardo's release from detention after just 60 days was a slap in the face to the memory of Anna Karolina. The fact that he was granted temporary freedom only served to demonstrate how flawed and slow the system can be when dealing with dangerous individuals. As Eleni continues to fight for justice, she has found comfort in the love and support of those around her. Friends and family have rallied behind her, offering a network of care that has helped her endure the immense sorrow. It is through this support system that Eleni continues to press forward, demanding accountability for what happened to Anna. Her focus remains on holding Eduardo accountable for his crimes, not only in the case of Anna Karolina, but also for the many other lives he has ruined, including the recent allegations involving the 2-year-old girl in Itapeva. Anna's tragic death has also led to more conversations about the dangers of stalking and domestic violence, issues that are often overlooked or dismissed by society. In many ways, Anna's story serves as a wake-up call for people to pay attention to the signs of abuse and take action before it's too late. Her story is a powerful reminder that predators can hide in plain sight, using their manipulation skills to maintain control over their victims. Whether through emotional, financial, or physical control, these abusers are often skilled at getting their victims to remain silent and feel trapped. The message is clear. We must never ignore the warning signs of abuse, and we must be willing to speak out when we see something wrong. It's crucial for communities to come together and support victims, making sure they feel safe enough to share their experiences and ask for help. Advocacy and public awareness campaigns play an important role in combating these issues, ensuring that those who commit such horrific crimes are held accountable and removed from society before they can harm others. Anna Karolina's story is one of both horror and resilience. While she lost her life at the hands of someone who should have protected her, her bravery in speaking out about her past and her decision to document the harassment she endured have become powerful tools in the fight for justice. Her mother, Eleni, has shown incredible strength by continuing the fight for accountability and ensuring that her daughter's story is not forgotten. As Anna's family waits for the justice they so desperately deserve, the authorities continue to work on building a case that will hold Eduardo accountable for his actions. His past actions, including the ongoing harassment, the spying, and his complete disregard for any boundaries, paint a clear picture of his obsession and his dangerous behavior. Despite his attempts to manipulate and control Anna, she fought back by documenting everything he did and sharing it with those who cared for her. In the end, those records would play a crucial role in the investigation and the efforts to bring him to justice. The case of Anna Karolina Pasquin has shed light on the ongoing issue of domestic violence, stalking, and abuse. It has sparked an important conversation about the need for stronger laws, quicker actions, and more support for victims of these crimes. In many ways, Anna's tragic end has become a call to action for others to not turn a blind eye to abuse and to take steps to protect those who may be suffering in silence. Though justice may seem distant for now, the fight for Anna Karolina's memory continues. Eleni's voice has become a powerful one, speaking for her daughter and for all those who suffer in silence. She hopes that the authorities will finally take swift and decisive action to make sure Eduardo faces the consequences of his actions. But the fight doesn't stop there. Anna Karolina's story is not just about one individual. It's about a societal issue that affects countless people around the world. By sharing her story, Eleni has sparked a movement that continues to grow. It's about raising awareness, educating the public, and providing support for those who may be suffering from similar situations. The hope is that by shining a light on the darkness, we can prevent future tragedies and ensure that predators like Eduardo are brought to justice before they can harm anyone else. As we remember Anna Karolina Pasquin, we honor her memory by standing up against abuse, speaking out about the dangers of stalking and control, and committing to a world where no one has to suffer at the hands of those who are supposed to protect them. Anna's story, though filled with heartache, has the potential to inspire change and create a safer future for others. The case of Anna Karolina Pasquin has not only left her family devastated, but it has also become a crucial example of how the justice system often fails victims of abuse and violence. As the investigation continues, and new revelations about Eduardo's actions come to light, it becomes more evident that Anna's tragic death was not just an isolated incident. The disturbing pattern of his behavior reveals a man consumed by control, obsession, and manipulation. But beyond this, the failure of the system to act swiftly and decisively has left many questioning the effectiveness of justice when it comes to cases of domestic violence and stalking. Eduardo's actions were not just limited to Anna. The recent case in Itapeva, where he was accused of attempting to abuse a 2-year-old girl, highlights the dangerous nature of this man and the potential for more victims. His relentless pursuit of control over his victims, his ability to manipulate those around him, and his lack of remorse for his actions all point to a predator who should have been removed from society long ago. Unfortunately, despite all the evidence stacking up against him, the justice system's response has been far too slow. Anna Karolina's story has raised awareness about the terrifying reality of how abusers can manipulate their victims, using a combination of charm and coercion to keep them under their control. It's important to understand that victims often don't speak out because of fear. They fear retaliation, they fear the loss of their relationships, and they fear the consequences of speaking up. This is precisely what Anna experienced. She kept her painful secret for years, terrified that if she exposed the truth, it would tear her family apart. Even when she finally did tell her mother, it was only after much anguish and uncertainty. This kind of manipulation can be incredibly insidious. Eduardo wasn't just abusing Anna physically. He was also breaking her down mentally and emotionally. He took advantage of her vulnerabilities, creating an environment where she felt isolated and powerless. His ability to maintain control over her life, even as she grew older and more independent, is a testament to the lengths abusers will go to ensure they retain power over their victims. And yet, even when Anna tried to break free, Eduardo's harassment continued unabated. After Anna Carolina's death, it became clear that she had been documenting everything, every message, every encounter with Eduardo, and every sign of his obsessive behavior. These screenshots, while they served as a form of protection for Anna, also became the key evidence in the investigation into her murder. It's heartbreaking to think that she had to live in fear long enough to feel the need to protect herself in this way. But it's also a testament to her strength and determination to fight back, even in the face of unimaginable fear. Eduardo's behavior was not an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern of abuse that had been unfolding for years. His obsession with Anna was a reflection of his desire for complete control over her. This control extended beyond emotional manipulation. It also had a financial aspect. He didn't just want Anna to stay in his life out of love. He wanted her to stay because he depended on her. Eduardo's actions were an attempt to ensure that Anna would never be free from him, never be able to live independently, and never be able to escape his reach. Even after the harassment escalated and Anna had moved away, Eduardo's obsession grew stronger. He couldn't stand the thought of her living a life without him, so he began bombarding her with messages, stalking her online, and even showing up near her workplace. His attempts to monitor her every move only intensified when she entered a healthy relationship and found happiness outside of his control. This drove him into a fit of rage, and he responded by becoming even more intrusive. His every action was designed to destabilize Anna's life, to ensure she remained within his grasp, and to prevent her from moving forward. In the months leading up to Anna's death, Eduardo's behavior had reached new extremes. He was following her, sending her unwanted messages, and even monitoring her social media accounts. His attempts to reassert control over her life were constant and overwhelming. He had no regard for her wishes or boundaries. Anna's only means of fighting back were her documents and her messages, an attempt to make the invisible torment visible to others. This case also highlights a broader issue that often goes unnoticed: the terrifying nature of stalking and its effects on victims. Stalking is a crime that can lead to severe psychological and emotional distress, as well as physical harm. It's not just about the physical danger. It's about the constant feeling of being watched, of never being free from the threat of harm. For Anna, Eduardo's obsession created an environment of perpetual fear. She couldn't escape him, even when she moved far away. His presence was felt in every corner of her life. The legal protections in place for victims of stalking and abuse are often inadequate. Although Anna was able to obtain a legal order of protection, the persistence of her abuser meant that this measure was not enough to shield her from harm. Eduardo's ability to continue his harassment, even in the face of legal barriers, reveals a critical gap in the legal system. There needs to be more emphasis on ensuring the safety of victims by enforcing legal measures and providing support systems that empower them to take control of their own lives. Eleni Pascuin, Anna's mother, has become a powerful voice for justice in this case. She has fought tirelessly to ensure that Eduardo faces the consequences of his actions, not just for the murder of her daughter, but also for his past crimes and his repeated attempts to control and manipulate those around him. Eleni's determination to speak out has been an inspiration to many. She is a mother who refuses to let her daughter's death be in vain. She is determined to ensure that Eduardo never harms another person again. Despite the setbacks, Eleni remains resolute in her pursuit of justice. She continues to speak out about the slow pace of the legal system and the need for greater accountability. Her advocacy is not just about her daughter. It's about all victims of abuse, stalking, and violence. She wants to make sure that no one else has to endure what Anna went through, and that justice is served quickly and fairly. Eleni's strength is a beacon of hope for other victims of abuse and violence, showing them that they too can fight back, that their voices matter, and that they deserve justice. Her journey is a reminder that the fight for justice is often long and difficult, but that it is worth it, not just for the victims, but for society as a whole. Every effort to expose the truth and hold perpetrators accountable is a step closer to creating a safer world for everyone. As we remember Anna Carolina Pasquin, let us honor her memory by standing up for victims of abuse and violence. Let us raise our voices and demand justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. Anna's story is not just a tragedy. It is a call to action for all of us to do better, to be more vigilant, and to ensure that no one has to suffer the way Anna did. Her story should be a reminder that we cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the warning signs of abuse and stalking. We must act quickly, decisively, and with compassion to protect those who are vulnerable. Anna Carolina. Pasquin's life may have been cut short, but her legacy will live on in the fight for justice, for safety, and for a world where no one has to endure what she did. The story of Anna Carolina Pasquin continues to resonate with many long after her tragic death. It's become a symbol not only of personal loss, but also of the long-standing systemic issues in how stalking, domestic abuse, and harassment are handled within the legal and social systems. Anna's family, particularly her mother, Eleni, have fought relentlessly to ensure that her death is not forgotten and that justice is ultimately served. While the process has been painfully slow and frustrating, they remain committed to seeing Eduardo face the full consequences of his actions. One of the most glaring issues that Anna's case highlights is the often slow response to stalking and harassment, even when victims take the brave step to report their abusers. Despite the overwhelming evidence that pointed to Eduardo's obsession with Anna, it took months for him to be held accountable for his actions. Even after Anna's death, Eduardo's ability to manipulate the legal system allowed him to avoid immediate detention and continue his life while awaiting trial. This raises serious questions about the efficiency of the legal system in preventing harm before it occurs, and in punishing those responsible when it does. One of the biggest lessons from this case is the importance of recognizing and acting on the signs of abuse before it's too late. Anna Carolina had suffered in silence for years, dealing with the emotional and psychological toll of her stepfather's abuse. And even when she finally found the courage to share her story with her mother, it wasn't until her tragic death that the full extent of Eduardo's manipulation and cruelty was revealed. Anna's story serves as a sobering reminder that the scars of abuse are often invisible, and it can take years for victims to find the strength to speak out. But Anna's courage in speaking out, despite the immense fear and shame she carried, should not be overlooked. Her bravery in documenting the ongoing harassment and abuse at the hands of Eduardo gave law enforcement a clear trail of evidence to follow, even though the police response was initially slow. She fought until the very end, refusing to let her abuser control her completely. And in doing so, she left behind a powerful message for those who suffer in silence. You are not alone, and your voice matters. Anna's story also highlights the importance of community support for victims of abuse. Anna's friends and loved ones did what they could to offer her emotional support. But without stronger intervention from the authorities, it's clear that the systems in place for protecting victims of abuse are far from perfect. The ongoing public dialogue about domestic violence, harassment, and stalking is helping to raise awareness. But much more needs to be done. There needs to be a cultural shift in how we view and address these issues, moving away from the belief that victims are somehow to blame and towards a system that supports and believes them when they speak out. As we look back on Anna Carolina Pasquin's life, it's impossible not to feel the profound sense of loss. But amidst the grief, there is also a deep sense of admiration for the strength she showed in the face of adversity. She lived her life with kindness, warmth, and a commitment to protecting her friends from the dangers she knew all too well. She was taken from this world far too soon, but her memory continues to inspire those who knew her and those who have heard her story. Her life may have been short, but it was lived with purpose, and her legacy will live on in the fight for justice for victims of abuse. Eleni Pasquin, Anna's mother, has made it her mission to continue the fight for justice on behalf of her daughter. She's determined to ensure that Eduardo is held accountable for what he did, not only to Anna, but also to his other victims. Her voice has been one of the driving forces behind the public awareness of this case, and her tireless efforts are a reminder that the road to justice is often long and difficult. It's a fight that has cost her dearly, but Eleni remains resolute in her mission. Her call for justice isn't just for her daughter. It's for all victims of abuse who have been silenced, for all those who have suffered in silence, too afraid to speak out, because they feared they wouldn't be believed. Eleni's courage in speaking out, even in the face of overwhelming grief, has become a beacon of hope for those who may feel trapped in abusive situations. She has shown that it's possible to keep fighting, even when the system fails you. The battle for justice in Anna's case is far from over, but there is hope. The ongoing investigation into Eduardo's actions has already resulted in new charges, and public pressure continues to build for him to be held accountable for his crimes. Anna's family, with the support of the community, is continuing to push for change, demanding better protection for victims of abuse and stronger legal action against offenders. The outcome of this case could set an important precedent for how stalking and domestic abuse cases are handled in the future. But even as they fight for justice, Anna's family knows that nothing can bring her back. No conviction can undo the damage done, and no legal outcome can erase the pain of losing a loved one. However, by speaking out, by continuing the fight for justice, Eleni and her family are ensuring that Anna's death is not in vain. They are determined to make sure that her story continues to inspire change, and that the lessons learned from this tragedy help protect future generations from falling victim to the same kind of abuse. The tragedy of Anna Carolina Pasquin is a wake-up call. It's a reminder that abuse can take many forms: physical, emotional, financial, and psychological, and that all of them are equally dangerous. It's also a reminder that the fight for justice doesn't end with one case. Every time we speak out against abuse, every time we advocate for victims, and every time we hold perpetrators accountable, we take one step closer to a world where no one has to suffer as Anna did. As we remember Anna Carolina Pasquin, let us honor her legacy by continuing to fight for a safer, more just world. Let us not allow her death to be just another statistic, but a turning point in how we address and respond to the dangers of domestic violence and stalking. Let her life and her story inspire us to be more vigilant, more compassionate, and more committed to ensuring that no one is ever again silenced by fear. The fight for justice for Anna Carolina is far from over, but as long as her family, her friends, and the community continue to stand together, there is hope that justice will eventually be served. And that, perhaps, is the greatest tribute we can give to a young woman who lost her life far too soon.